come from Helsinki, and it's the city, or the icon of my city, which is why it's there. And Helsinki was inspiration for some of my solutions for Arsenal, which is why I started with this. My approach is to tell you what we learned, and then how I attempted to apply it. So this is a grid view of territorial planning, a journey from the classroom theory to a new application for the Arsenal of Las Palmas, by Taira Tuukkanen. Grid 1, global trends. The people, planet, and profit, what we talk about in every class. Social, environmental, and economical aspects. And consuming and growing excessively, yet attempting to preserve the environment and its resources for future generations of all species, so that the planet will have equal capacity to serve them as it has served previous generations, is how sustainability is defined. It's not a direct quote, but it's based on the Brundtland Commission from 1987. And the tourists are invading every historical and natural site for selfish purposes or selfies, as we saw in class as well. And in 2100, we're expected to be at 11.12 million people, of which 80% in urban areas, which means that people are hitting the hotspots. This is Richard Florida's map of the hotspots, which are these right here. And then the yellow areas are manufacturing areas, which at the moment are prosperous, but factories are closed all the time, so they're unstable. They could change place anytime. But the hotspots, or the urban areas, they are the innovation centers of the world right now. But then the effects on urban planning, if the world looks like this, how do we accommodate like 80% of people in these little spiky spots? Grid 2, the mobility trumps connectivity. So again, the environmental, economic, and social strategic values of modes of transport. Compact cities, instead of diffuse systems, having all necessities close by, will decrease the need to travel by private vehicles, and every place should be connected, and promoting soft mobility and use of non-motorized vehicles without fear of being hit by cars or trucks, and then connecting neighborhoods together with no dividing structures. And public transportation must be made convenient to encourage active use. And then use of private cars, I think, should be discouraged with, well, oil prices, they already are, and then taxes, and the cost and lack of parking is also discouraging. And soft mobility and public transportation should be promoted, with accessibility and quality being the main issues, and then comfort, ease, safety, and cleanliness. Complex connectivity networks. Complexity is a necessity for well-functioning networks, and innovation and technology required for smart mobility, and that requires mobile applications and ticket systems, up-to-date information boards, and everything needs to be function fast and reliably. And we all want choices, so we need to have fastest, shortest, and cheapest routes to choose from. Shared and public transportation made easy, comfortable, and fast. This is a tram from Helsinki. They have exclusive lanes and rails for public transportation. Then if you design underground, if possible, then you optimize the use of open spaces on top. And then parts of cities and different neighborhoods need to be connected, so don't put railways or big motorways in between cities or in between neighborhoods. Urban structuring, material, place, function, and form were the key words often repeated to justify my use of the grid. The grid provides organization, Interlaced elements could be natural, artificial, or they can attract or repel. Urban spaces are made up of solid objects and empty spaces, in other words, buildings and voids. Patterns can be geometrical, symmetrical, and inspired often by art or then naturally occurring organic patterns. The entrance and surroundings create the first impression. So open spaces need to serve a purpose and reflect the image of the building, its surrounding. Large squares provide grandeur but not comfort. We like to hear the murmur of voices and see the facial expressions of other people in the squares, so we feel connected and more comfortable. So a cozy area might be better than a huge, grand, deserted area. Lively, healthy, and safe circumstances for a livable city, and then attractive and sustainable elements embedded. And to achieve maximum result, try to use minimal resources.
1 minute.
Then, initial step can be complete or partial destruction of existing landscape or utilizing elements in the final product which are already part of the environment, handcrafted or prefabricated. Here's an example from Finland, which is definitely part of the structure and blends in, or then it can be to draw attention and impose on the landscape. This is Calatrava's auditorium in Tenerife, so very different purpose. Business and industry. We're moving from the industrial zones to technological parks and innovation centers, but the common denominator is proximity. So even though now we have the technology and communications to allow dispersion of production, administration, and distribution, we still want everything to be close by. We want to feel connected. We want everything to be at our reach. So proximity used to be a necessity, but now it is a desired value. This is again from my neighborhood. This is from 2016. They've just started. Here are the railways. This is one stop away from the city center. And 3 years later, they just opened this at the end of last year. You can't see it, but it's a very, the facade is very weird. It's like metal with holes in it. And this is the new railway station connected to the Mall of Tripla, and it is offering or providing centrality to the services and services to the new neighborhood, yet it's connected in every direction. So it's not downtown, but it's like the next step, and it didn't really have anything. So this was a good move, and real estate prices are going up. The seafront, feared and revered, source of danger and unpredictable risks, rising sea level and climate change induced catastrophes, and yet it's a popular tourist destination, preferred residential area that offers leisure opportunities, economic gains, and ecological benefits. Who could resist? Sustainable Earth. We should be ecological and use materials that are recyclable and reusable, and vegetation provides atmospheric advantages, so we should utilize that when possible, but nothing will happen unless we have strong and clear public leadership that we should demand and not shuffle it off to the next administration, or else this might happen. Now, on to the applications in the arsenal. My focus was to have ecotourism, then health and exercise, but in general, responsible tourism. Not exactly a self-sustaining area, but to do the best could. So an experimental eco-village with a sporty twist, an environment to test potential self-sustaining solutions. All of these I will touch upon in the next slides. So this would be sort of like a research center to try which could work, which solutions could work, and which could be extended somewhere else. The wow effect entrance should be something to reflect the area and its values. Then recycling in style. None of these are really something that would blend in, but that would be the purpose, the strategically situated uniform waste containers which blend into the surroundings. Using compost and reuse the organic waste in cultivation. Closed containers, so there won't be any smells, and close access to compost for all residential buildings and garden allotment areas. This is something done in Finland. They have lots inside cities with rentable plots that you can cultivate, and it's a source of relaxation and a hobby for many people. And then the city gets money for it, and they pretty much maintain the area. So gridded garden plots surrounded by plantings of stone walls based on garden facades, and then communal upkeep, and then the irrigation system utilizing the proximity of the sea. This would be one option to reverse osmosis, where we could use the ocean water, even though it's salty, to get the salt out, and then we're left with water that could be used for irrigation, and then also the pressure used and reused to the pumps that initially forced the water through. So it's harvesting the energy, which is also sort of a self-sustaining idea. The other end of the arsenal could use grey water, which is all the wastewater generated in households or office buildings, except for toilets. And then the households and tourist areas could use solar-powered pumps run on electricity generated by photovoltaic panels instead of utility electricity. Then the residential and tourist buildings, which I would like to mix in the same area, would be turned into passive houses with the high-performance windows and airtight doors and the balanced heat and moisture recovery systems and everything. This is from Spain, looking on to the Mediterranean by an architectural firm in Barcelona, which has. So this is already tested. Another one from Gran Canaria, or no, the Canariales. They didn't say exactly where it is. Already in '95, and a house in bioclimatic experimental urbanization. So this is definitely a possibility also in the arsenal. Soft mobility, wide lanes for pedestrians and non-motorized vehicles, easy access everywhere, no private motorist vehicles allowed, and safety ensured. The lane should be wide enough for emergency vehicles and occasional scheduled delivery and maintenance work vehicles. Street lines with solar panels and no need for traffic lights. This is what is done in Finland. There's a grocery store sponsor who pays for all of this, and they have advertisements pretty much rolling around the city. So I'm sure in Gran Canaria there would be many sustainably oriented businesses who would fund using the scooters and bikes, either working by battery or then just human power. But there would be.
Laura, try to finish because
Sorry.
30 minutes already.
Oh. This would be another option for taxi ride and transporting heavier loads. Centrality for a pop-up market to sell local produce, and a centerpiece over there with shops and restaurants and permanent fixtures. Only partial destruction required. Utilize all possible existing areas and constructions like the sport areas and green areas. Utilize and expand the existing sport areas for public access and better loading parking possibilities and promoting an active lifestyle. The port could provide an access point to pick up the recyclable waste. And then aloe vera would be easy to plant and then use it as a product to sell for tourists as a service and treatments and such. I'm sorry for this, but this is how I imagined it, and I couldn't do it on the computer. So there would be the plant areas here, or the allotment plots. Here would be the residential areas for tourists and residents by solar-powered water system and passive houses. There could be a kindergarten or a play school over here. The marketplace would be here, a sport consortium over here, and here would be research offices, admin info, the entrance is here, and everything here is that you can walk everywhere. These are walkways. Funding, rent from residents decreased in terms of maintenance work, tourist accommodations, and then non-motorized vehicles rented by or sponsored by businesses, rickshaw services, and opportunity for residents to make money, cultivated produce sold at pop-up markets, and optimal conditions to grow aloe vera and utilize its universally known image. And due to the experimental nature of the solutions tested and their possible wider use elsewhere, state funding could be applied for.
Oh.